بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من تكبر وضعه الله ومن تواضع رفعه الله وكما قال. Because of the time limit we have, I will directly get into my subject. In the last week we've been talking about the importance of knowledge, and in this chapter Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah describes bayanu afatil munadara, about the illnesses and the vices of knowledge. He then begins to describe, and I did want to conclude. I will try to conclude on this chapter of knowledge. Honestly, such a long chapter, because in the entire Ihya you'll come to realize there's a manhaj, there's a methodology, there's a route he's taken. And ultimately, in the entire Ihya, Imam al-Ghazali is trying to bring everybody back to Allah. The whole focus in the entire Ihya, from beginning to end, is to bring the masses back to Allah Rabbul Alameen. Bring you back to the dhikr of Allah, to the ma'rifah of Allah. And of course, without knowledge, none of that can be achieved. That is just jahala. That is just ignorance. And then he describes, Imam al-Ghazali says, there are four types of people. There is one type of person who has the knowledge and he knows he has knowledge. He says that's a person, that's an alim who you must follow. Then you have a person who has knowledge but is not aware that he has knowledge. Imam al-Ghazali says such a person is asleep. He needs to be woken up. Many of us actually fall into that category where we do not realize the potential we have. It just needs to be awakened. That potential just needs to be polished. It needs steering. It needs mentoring. It needs a guide. So you can express that knowledge. You can come out. Many of us may be very good orators, but have never had the opportunity to lead and guide the people, because that skill set you had is asleep. He says you have a skill set, you have a knowledge, but you're not aware of it. That person is asleep. He needs to be woken up. Then you have that third category person who does not have knowledge, and he knows that he does not have knowledge. Then that person also is a person that's in deep sleep. He needs to be woken up. He needs to be guided. He needs to be taught. As soon as he's taught, he will now realize, you know what? I actually have that knowledge now. And the fourth is the worst one, which is that individual who does not have knowledge and doesn't even know that he has no knowledge as well. Completely ignorant, jahil mutlaq. Completely ignorant. And that's the type of person Imam al-Ghazali says you need to avoid. You must avoid such a person. He'll mislead you and many others along the route. So you can never afford to be in that fourth category at all. But in all of this discussion, he's saying, come back to Allah Rabbul Alameen. Now when we're talking about ilm, we're talking about ulama, we're talking about the tulaba, the students of knowledge. Now he goes on to teaching and discussing the vices of knowledge. And the first one he described from the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, "Man takabbara wada'ahu Allah." Whomever has pride, becomes arrogant with the knowledge he has, wada'ahu Allah, Allah will humiliate him, because his intentions were never pure. He only went on this route of seeking knowledge because he wanted to be known as an alim, as a talibul ilm, as a student of such a sheikh. You know, you have cults like this, people. Have you ever studied? Yes, I studied under such a big sheikh in this country, in that country. And that's all they mention everywhere they go. I'm a student of this, I'm a student of that. Then that knowledge isn't beneficial knowledge at all. That's not al-nafi. That's a vice. That's actually going to come to sting you really hard on the Day of Judgment. Because the hadith says, the three type of people that will enter Jahannam, before anyone else. One of them is the alim who will be brought forward on the day of judgment, will be asked, what did you do for my deen? And he will turn around and say, Ya Rab, I sought knowledge. I taught hundreds and thousands. I inspired communities upon communities. Allah Rabbul Alameen will say, you're a liar. You only did it so people could give you fame. People could give you that recognition. You just wanted the highest position. You just wanted the doors to be open for you. You just wanted to be known as the alim of such a masjid. And guess what? You wanted that praise from them. You got it from them in dunya. There's nothing from you in the akhirah. You did it for the dunya. Allah gave it to them in the dunya. Nothing you take away in the akhirah. So he says, Man takabbara, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa said, Man takabbara, whomever has pride and becomes ignorant with the knowledge he has. And we're not just talking about knowledge of the deen. This could be any type of knowledge. You become a solicitor, you become a doctor. Now you can't sit on a table with another person. I don't sit with you. I don't drive in your car. I don't come to your home. You have people, these are vices of knowledge, of every type of knowledge, where it makes you arrogant. Just because you're a barrister, I'm not going to sit on the same table with this person now. I don't want to pick his phone up. You have problems like this. And these are the vices that Imam al-Ghazali is referring to here. And وَمَنْ تَوَاضَعَ, and the one who does humble himself in front of Allah. With the knowledge he has, he uses it to dispense that knowledge to as many people as possible. With pure intentions, رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ, Allah will raise his ranks in this dunya and will raise his ranks in the akhirah as well. This is for all of the students of knowledge we have here. I see many hufaz from our Hifz classes here and all the students of knowledge that are listening. If you truly humble yourself before Allah, Allah will rafa'ahu Allah. Allah will lift your ranks in this dunya and in the akhirah as well. And that's ultimately what you should be trying to attain. And then the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam described. He says in Tabarani, إِذَا تَعَلَّمَ النَّاسُ الْعِلْمِ تَرَكُوا الْعَمَلِ. You'll find people that will seek knowledge, and this one is particularly referring to knowledge of the deen. They study and seek knowledge of the deen, وَتَرَكُوا الْعَمَلِ, and they abandon implementing everything that they had learned. Ilm is just ilm, knowledge, there's no implementation. You've never got up to do your sunnahs, you've never done your nawafil, you don't zip your tongue. In fact, with knowledge, your tongue becomes sharper and sharper. You can belittle people, you can pick on people, you can show your knowledge, you can express that with your tongue. وَتَرَكُوا الْعَمَلِ, and then what happens? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَتَحَابُوا بِالْأَلْسُنِ, and they love to be mentioned. It's a common name on people's tongue. Fala Hazrat, Qari Sahab, Hafiz Sahab, Imam Sahab. You have people like this that love that vibe. They love it. When people call him Imam Sahab, when people call him Hafiz Sahib, if this is why you're becoming a Hafiz, then leave it. If this is why you're becoming an alim, so people can call you Imam Sahib. If this is why you're becoming a doctor, an engineer, so people can call you Dr. Sahib, then leave it. It's going to come to bite you hard on the day of judgment. I'm reading the hadith to you. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَتَحَابُوا بِالْأَلْسُنِ, they love to be mentioned on people's tongue. Hazrat, Dr. Sahib. They love it. And you know how you know they love it? Because one day when you don't call him Dr. Sahib, he gets upset. One day when you don't call him Imam Sahib, he becomes upset. One day you call him by his name only, and you don't call him Hafiz Sahib, he becomes upset. You know he loves that name now. And you know that person has been distracted by shaitan. Imam Ghazali mentions all of this in detail. I need a lot of time to go through this. You start with pure intentions. Honestly, very, very pure intentions. I'm going to serve the people. Why are you doing medicine, Hazrat? Because I want to serve the people. Okay, fine. Then he graduates. A few years later, now when you don't call him Dr. Sahib, he kicks off. He's become a Hafiz. Started with pure intentions. I want to become a Hafiz. I want to study the deen, study the Quran. Many years later, don't call him Hafiz Sahib. Man doesn't want to know you anymore. You won't even shake your hands anymore. These are vices and these are things you'll see. وَتَبَاغَضُوا بِالْقُلُوبِ. And in the hearts, they have ill feelings towards others now. They love people mentioning their names and their titles. And in their hearts, they have ill feelings. تَبَاغَضُوا بِالْقُلُوبِ وَتَقَاطَعُوا فِي الْأَرْحَامِ. And now because they have knowledge, now they start to sever their ties and their relations. I'm Dr. Saab. And who are you? You my cousin? No, I don't think you're my cousin. We're a family of all doctors. And if one of them doesn't become a doctor, one is not an engineer, you don't want to know him anymore. He doesn't get the calls. He doesn't get the phone to come to a dhikr or to a majlis. You have problems like that in our society. And now because you have a certain level of knowledge now, the hadith describes, وَتَقَاطَعُوا فِي الْأَرْحَامِ. They start to cut their family ties because of that now. Because they have knowledge. What happens then? Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam describes, he says, لَعَنَهُمُ اللَّهُ عِنْدَ ذَلِكَ. Allah Rabbul Alameen curses such a person of knowledge. Essay, alim, or individual of knowledge, whatever science you may have knowledge in. But if that knowledge is pulling you towards severing ties, and now you love the praise, لَعَنَهُ اللَّهُ عِنْدَ ذَلِكَ. Allah Rabbul Alameen curses such type of science, such a knowledge that you have gained. Allahu Akbar. فَأَصَمَّهُمْ وَأَعْمَى بِصَارَهُمْ. And then the eyes are sealed and the ears are sealed by Allah Rabbul Alameen. Nothing is coming in. There's no guidance left anymore. These are the vices of knowledge. I'm trying to keep here a balanced discussion. So not just targeting the ulama, the imams, or just targeting the secular sciences. But everyone that has some level of knowledge. And now that knowledge is no longer guiding you towards Allah. See, in the last chapter of this, in the last subheading of this chapter, it's about the intellect. And he praises the intellect. But then he also says, this intellect Allah Rabbul Alameen created so that using the wisdom and knowledge you pick up in life, you turn towards Allah. You humble yourself. You try to ask yourself, how can I benefit my community in 101 ways possible? So you can dispense that knowledge, not to make it more expensive, not to make it less accessible. And the more red tape around you now because you've become such a rank in your knowledge, in your science, you need to go through him and him and him and him to get access to you. That is not the purpose of knowledge. Knowledge is something you give for free. This is why Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam and what Nur Zaman was mentioning, al-Ilm, wirasatul anbiya. It is the inheritance of the Anbiya. Abu Huraira is a Sahabi who went into the market and told everyone, guys, stop what you're doing, come to the masjid. Because the inheritance of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being distributed. The people flocked to the masjid, came and saw, nothing happening here. Where's money? Where's wealth? Where's the gold? Where's the silver? Dirham, dinar, we don't see any. They saw a Sahabi Rasul in the corner teaching Qala wa Qala Rasul. That's all he was doing. The people turned around, Abu Huraira, what's this? Where's the inheritance? He said, guys, that is the inheritance of the Rasul, which you are missing out on. And that is that inheritance which is being taught in this masjid of yours. Every Tuesday evenings, the class on Aqidah is taking place. I mentioned it last week to almost 800-900 people here. How many turned up? That is wirasa of the Anbiya, the inheritance of the Rasul being dispensed for free. By an alim who spent 14 years studying, now when he comes back to teach, there's not even 20 people sat before him. But when we said it's the wirasat of the Prophet ﷺ, everybody sings Subhanallah, Subhanallah. But when it comes to actively seeking knowledge, Inna lillah, Inna lillah. That is our approach. Please take this seriously. These opportunities have arrived. And in the winter course we have a 4-year winter intensive is called. It's not intensive, I mentioned last time, but for our young students, English audience. Over the next week, everyone's off. College, universities, schools. From Monday onwards, Monday to Thursday, 4 days. Come at Dhuhr Salah, stay with us till Isha. On Wednesday, I checked how many people have signed up. And this is a shocker. How many people have signed up where we've got Imams like Imam Adil coming from Bradford to come and teach. Only 4 people have signed up. Only 4. Food for thought, I hope so. Allah Ta'ala mulki tawfiq ata farmaye.